Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better brace yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. We got a guest on here. We're just going to jump right in. We're going to bring him up. He's got some big announcement stuff, and he's got a bunch of cool stuff going on out there. Corey Buchan, happy Monday to you as well. So with that being said, I got Mr. Dan Lindsey with the Broker Carrier Summit on. Yeah.
There we go.
That is how it's done. I love it.
Starting off on the right note on this Monday.
Dude, you know what I love the most about that, Dan, is that's real life. And there's nobody who comes on my show that tries to be perfect or polished or anything like that. Ironically, that's why people tune into this show, is because like this is just real life on here.
Yeah, people want authenticity, man. That's what drives people. Nobody wants fake. There's been enough of that going on.
Been enough, dude. It's all over the place, man. Like dude, it's wild out there. Like I can't even tolerate going on most social media platforms in today's day and age. I give myself a rule, Dan. If I have time in the middle of the day to scroll, I give to the first negative post or negative comment I see, and then I'm off. And that literally, it has caught my social media time down to like 1 minute during the workday, because it's that quick before it's somebody bitching about something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also too, you got to filter who you listen to and who you take advice from. One of the things I've said a lot is influence does not equal expertise. Just because you have a platform or have a voice doesn't mean that you're worth listening to.
Dude, ain't that the truth, man? Especially in today's day and age. It's just like, I mean, you scroll, I mean, especially, I try and talk about transportation as much as possible on this show, which is like 99% of the stuff that we talk about, because that's what I want to do, is to provide that insight. But it's like, man, there's such a rise of people in our space who are posting about nothing at this point, right? It's just the same message time and time again from other people. And ironically, not one person is trying to provide value of how can we keep people in business with their content? What information can we put out there to like kind of bridge this gap that is going on between carriers, brokers, and shippers, and put best practices out there? I mean, there's a select few who are doing that, but they get buried in all the nonsense because negativity sells on social media. So it's like I caution people to kind of push through a lot of that, because it's not as bad as everybody wants to make it out to seem out there. Ironically, if you're actually in the industry and you're actually talking to shippers and carriers, 99% of the people out there are just like anybody, just like you and I, Dan. We just want to work hard and provide for our family and not get fucked with. I think it's a pretty fair ask.
It's a pretty fair deal. I mean, the bar's not that high, to be totally honest. Just do a good job and act with integrity. And that's one of the things we say at the summit all the time, is all the bad actors get all the good press. And that's one of the reasons why we started it, to give the good actors, the good companies, the people who are out there every day trying to make a living for themselves, their families, their employees, and doing things the right way, because that's the majority of the industry.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you, right? I talk about it, and I've mentioned it before. I could easily probably 10x my engagement and probably 5x my revenue for my business if I just focused on the negative stuff, because it gets the most eyeballs and the most stuff. But I won't do it. Because like what means the most to me is the DMs that I get. And, I don't want to put this person's name out there, but the DM that I got yesterday from an individual who was just like, hey, I did this and this and this from your show, and it has exponentially increased my earnings and everything else. And they were just talking about that. I'm like, that's why I show up every day. And I told them that. I'm just like, hey, listen, that message right there, the days that I don't want to go live, the days that I don't want to do shit because I'm a human being as well, that message right there is what keeps me coming back every single time, because it's like, as long as one person tunes in to this episode today and gets value and sees a difference in their business or their life, that's all I'm concerned about. And that's what my focus is always going to be out there. And that's what your guys' focus is, and what you guys are doing with Broker Carrier Summit and everything. And I'm going to say Broker Carrier 87 times on the show, because my company's Broker Carrier as well. And Dan and I are buddies, and we can help equally promote each other. So it's just
you get co-branding without even asking for it, buddy.
Dude, exactly. I think it's a win-win for both of us, man, because I will constantly talk about Broker Carrier anything, and especially the summit, because, you know, man, when we first connected a few years ago, that was like our first conversation is hey, the importance as a broker in working with carriers long-term. And, you know, I want to give carriers a platform as well to improve their businesses, because again, this is day whatever in the 4 years that I've been creating content, and I'm still waiting for that broker to come to me with a business plan where they can make money as a freight broker without using trucks at all.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, when you find them, let me know, and put that out there for every other broker to see as well, because it's not going to happen.
Oh man, I love it. So dude, you got some big personal news here, man. I think like as an entrepreneur, like, you know, it was funny because I get an email from Dan with what he's about to say, and then I didn't respond, and then I get a text from him a few hours later. He's like, "Bro, did you see that?" And I'm like, "I thought you said don't say anything in it," so I didn't know what was.
Yeah.
Dude, you got some big news going on out there. What's going on?
Yeah, my first experience with press releases, so I'm learning as I go here. So big news. I've been working on the Broker Carrier Summit for just over a year now, and if anybody who's been involved with the movement and with the event can attest to, it's absolutely all-consuming, and for all the best reasons. We have a very engaged audience, very engaged community, and everybody wants to learn more. They want to be more involved. And so I realized in Kansas City back in April at our last event that this is something that demands 100% of my commitment and 100% of my time. So I had a conversation with my partner, literally, I think it was 2 days after I got back from Kansas City. And I said, hey, we got to sell the company because I don't have the time to manage both. So we sold Linkage Logistics effective June 1st. We're winding down operations here. I am effectively in what will be known as the Linkage bunker, the former offices of Linkage Logistics, as we transition out. But I'm going all in on this idea that what you just talked about, there are more good actors in the industry than bad. And we need to highlight the good. We need to promote networking, promote partnership, and create the kind of relationships in this industry that people have been wanting and begging for, honestly, for years. And no one's been able to crack the code as of yet on how to bring brokers and carriers together in a way that's mutually beneficial. And I don't know if we've cracked the code yet, but we're on the right track. And everyone that has been involved in these events has alluded to that.
So before we get more into you doing that full time in the summit and everything, what was that like, man? Like selling your company? Because I remember one of our first conversations was the why behind you started Linkage back in the day, and when you and your business partner got in there. What was that like? Was it a clear, hey, I have to go do this full time with Broker Carrier Summit, or was it back and forth like, shit, can I do it both? Because, you know, it is really tough. And I'm saying that as somebody who does have multiple hats in a couple of businesses. It's fucking extremely challenging. And it's why I have as many gray hairs as I do for as young as I am. But
hey, you're still a step ahead of me, my friend. Mine's all gone.
I didn't want to say that, but you know, it's kind of obvious if you're watching live. But no, so like what was that like, man? Was it like a, hey, we accomplished everything I had set out to, it's time? Or was there back and forth on, hey, do we continue to do this the way that we're doing it?
Yeah, for me, it came back to that question of, am I adding value? Not only am I adding value, but am I adding all the value that I potentially can to the entities that I'm a part of? So for me internally, it was probably an 8 or 9 month back and forth struggle with myself and saying, hey, can I do both? If I can, let's do it. And it became more and more clear as we ramped up for Kansas City that that one or the other has to take precedence.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask myself the question around, it was mid-March. I was actually at Mid-America Truck Show, and I was in my hotel room thinking about this and working through some things. And I was like, which of these adds more value to the industry, and which of these am I the most excited about?
Yeah.
And this, what has the most potential to do the most amount of good? And so that's kind of when I made the final call internally, was I need to go one way or the other. And so that's where it happened.
No, dude, it's it's the real life side of everything, especially when you're going out there and you're trying to build stuff, and unless something's changed, you don't have $100 million investment in anything right now where you can,
Right.
just freely spend capital, kind of doing whatever.
Exactly.
You've truly built brick by brick your previous company in linkage, and the
Yeah.
effort that it takes to get it to where it was. And and those are those conversations. And and shit, man, it's like that's the battle that I have in my head a lot about stuff is how can I effectively allocate my time to get the best results out of it. And and I think that this is something that everybody needs to take stock of throughout your
Yeah.
life. Is are you happy? Like, I think that's the biggest, like, not, hey, I'm having a couple of bad days, but do you love what you do every single
Yeah.
day? And if the answer is not a resounding yes, I personally think you got to go find what makes you happy in life, because otherwise, man, like, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, fuck, I wasted my entire life doing something that I shouldn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the things too, that you have to have a conversation with yourself at some point in the process, involving the question, excuse me, what does success look like for you in this, whatever, business, enterprise, whatever it is you're doing? What is, when can I say I've done it? When can I say I've achieved what I wanted to achieve? And for me, for Linkage, I think I realized last year it was proving to myself that I could start a successful company. We were able to grow Linkage 600% over the first 3 years of our business. And we built a team of the 17 people. And obviously, the challenges that came with the last year and a half have kind of
Yeah.
whittled away a little bit at that. But it was proving to me that one, I have the ability to go out and build a network, build a community, build a business, and so that box was checked for me. That goal was achieved, and I would love to ride Linkage all the way to the top, and I'm sure that the team that is going to be inheriting us is going to be fantastic and going to do great things with the customers and however they choose to grow that. But for me, with the summit, it's a very different conversation. It's not proving to myself, can I build something? It's almost proving to the industry that the conversations that have been happening, negative conversations around brokers and carriers, they do not define our
Yeah.
industry. And that's the proof for me.
No, man, I love it. So now that we've shifted our focus to 100% invested time in building the broker carrier summit out, like, how do we grow this, right? Like, how do we grow this movement? I know you guys have your fall conference coming up here it's in Fort Worth, not Dallas, right?
It's in Fort Worth, correct?
Okay, yeah. So it's in Fort Worth here later this year. So what can people expect in coming to this next one? And kind of what did you learn from Kansas City? Because it was obviously, if you're on any form of social media and trucking, you heard of that summit. And so it's like, what did you learn from that? What was your biggest takeaway? And how is that changing your focus for Fort Worth here in October?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway for me, I had probably 24 conversations the last day of the summit in Kansas City. Excuse me, sorry, fighting the Midwest allergies here.
Dude, they're
Two
in
dozen
Arizona right now
conversations.
too, man. I fucking it's
Yeah, the,
brutal.
po- the pollen's everywhere. But almost 24 conversations the final day in Kansas City, where people were saying how hungry they've been for a long time that these conversations happen. I was talking to carriers who were interacting with brokers the day before at our Lunch and Lanes event, and they came up to me and said, "Hey, thank you for putting this on. I already have loads from new brokers that I met here. I have trucks over the road for them right now.
Yeah.
And it was less than 24 hours after they had talked. So I learned basically that there's a lot of work in repairing those relationships that we have to do. And I'm all about, leading the conversation in whatever way we can in that.
No, I think like that is where, you have to start because again, I feel like it's been, and you and I have discussed this, and my biggest concern for the industry coming up here is the fact that there are a lot of brokers who have had a very easy time covering freight for about 4 years now,
Yeah.
and they're not going to like doing what is going to be required to cover freight here coming up, because it's like if you've never worked in a carrier market and you're the prototypical broker that brokers are known for and why people hate brokers out there. I personally think that's where the mass exodus of the industry is going to come. I truly feel like it's going to be brokerages closing left and right because and I brought this up a lot here on the show. So I'm not trying to bang this drum, but like I know a lot of people in the industry, and there's a lot of brokerages who are survived by one account right now that are doing everything. And it's not like they don't have to lose their business or anything like that. But I know how people act. And if they built their business up solely on results in these last couple of years from a broker's perspective, it's going to be a very challenging shift to go and understand that, and I just had Paul Estrada on my show on Friday. He's an enterprise shipper for a very large company. And, he all but, nodded his head in agreement when I had said my statement. When carriers raise their rates, customers aren't going to be raising their rates right away either. I would
No.
argue they're going to dig their heels in for this year and possibly next year for all anybody knows at this point on where things are going to be. So it's like, if you don't know how to operate in a lean mentality, and if you don't know how to operate and book freight in the sense of like, hey, listen, I know I've been paying 1,500. The market's at 1,700 now. I just got to take this truck and then book the freight and keep my customer happy. If you struggle with that, I truly feel like that's the biggest threat to the industry. Because I think any trucking company that is surviving right now, I don't want to say they're in the clear because I don't know what people's finances are. But if you've been able to navigate through these last 12 months, I think you're good because you know what to do.
Yeah.
You know how to navigate in a down market towards a carrier. And I think like you need to invest in summits like this to truly actually understand what a carrier goes through, to truly
Right.
understand where their perspective is, because a lot of these drivers, like, it's not their fault. It's not their
No.
fault the product's not ready. It's not their fault for whatever is going on out there. If you actually break it down and look at the situation, it's not. It's your own ego as the broker that's getting in the way.
Absolutely. Well, that's one of the reasons why we say what we say when we say the future of logistics is partnership. If you don't know how to have long-term mutually beneficial partners as a broker or as a carrier, you are going to have a really, really hard time navigating what is coming. And freight's always had this, right? There's always a shipper market or a broker market or a carrier market. And no matter whose market it is, people on the other side are saying they're sitting there for a year or so thinking, just wait, I'm going to get you. You screwed me over for the last year. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And that mentality is not a partnership mentality. It's a pure transactional, oftentimes vindictive mentality to take, and it's not helpful. And it doesn't help to regulate the rates. It doesn't help to enhance serviceability or services on accounts. Nobody wins in that kind of environment. And so the future of logistics is absolutely partnership driven. And partnership driven relationships require that the people involved in those partnerships literally sit across the table from each other, have the conversations they need to have in productive ways. And that's what the summit's providing.
What was the most impactful conversation you heard of that happened? Maybe it was one you personally had, but I know that there's, you after the show, you probably get a lot of feedback from people. What was one of the most impactful conversations that you think was had after the first summit here in Kansas?
Yeah, I was talking with Dawn Salvucci Fabier from Green Screen. She's on the board of the BCS Green Screens.
Let's go.
But she was telling me about a couple of conversations she had with people where they were telling her that they've been to multiple events, multiple trade shows, multiple conferences over the last number of years, and this was the only event where they felt better about the industry when they left than when they arrived.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is so impactful is because, again, all the bad actors get all the good press. If you just sit on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok all day long and listen to what you think the state of the industry is, you're missing a vast majority of what goes on in the industry and all the positive that is going on in the industry. And that's what we're trying to highlight.
Yeah, I truly think that, and again, it's, I'm not going to a lot of conferences this year, mainly because like my I just got too much shit on my plate. And with all due respect to a lot of the conferences out there, you're not going to teach me anything that I already know about the market, because like I'm actually in it trying to figure it out. And I pride myself on getting ahead of any breaking technology that might be out there to get on the show and everything. But, for me, it's like my biggest need for my business right now is customer acquisition. That's where it is. It's getting out there and talking to shippers and meeting people in person. So it's like if your conference happens to be in an area where I'm prospecting customers or have site visits, realistically, yeah, I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone, because I'm also trying, like, this, Dan, you've bootstrapped companies. I'm trying to maximize my travel when I go out there. It's not, I can't just go to a conference for the sake of going to a conference when I'm trying to hire, when I'm trying to scale my company.
Right.
I have to be effective with the capital that I allocate out there. And, there are a select few conferences that are on my short list of ones that if it happens, I'll be out there. And, but you're right. It's like we need more actual business owners talking to each other. We need more actual drivers talking to actual brokers instead of people who hypothetically were a broker, for 4 months and, they got into media and now they're a fucking expert in this shit. Or, it's like, we need people.
They built a course.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, man. We need actual people who are dedicated to changing this industry, or not even changing it, because it's not nearly as bad as a lot of people want to make it seem, right? Because they're incentivized to sell fear, like there's certain fraud companies and all that shit that's going on in the industry that they're going to sell that, because again, like I'm a capitalist at the end of the day. Like I don't fault anybody for doing that, but they're not looking to fix anything, because if they fix it, they go out of business. They want to stoke that fire. It's just like with media. Media is not really incentivized to talk about solutions and everything else. They're more like, hey, how can we drive division out here? Because that's what's going to keep eyeballs on our stuff, and eyeballs equal revenue. I'm not knocking anybody's hustle. I'm just speaking the fucking truth because I'm in it. Right. And I want to see more of, hey, how do we keep that mom and pop trucking company on the road? How do we keep that truck driver profitable who has every dollar invested in this to make it work to support their family? Just like I have every dollar I have wrapped up in my companies to make this shit work. Like this isn't a fucking game to me. Like this is literally the difference between my family having a house to live in and not. So it's like I take this shit very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's one of the more shocking elements of the success of the summit so far, is that we've done so without sowing more division. In fact, I think one of the things that we've proved is that positivity can sell. And I'm not one of these like feel good positivity guru guys. I don't always try and find a silver lining. But what we found is that the nonpartisan, call it, nature of the summit is actually what people are craving. And I think we're tapping into that in a grassroots kind of way in the industry, and people are responding extremely well.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what needs to happen, because again, it's going to be a ground up. It truly does, because I feel like, and that's another thing too, is, a lot of the larger companies out there can pay for screen time and time like that with the other media outlets in the industry. But it's, the other individuals out there who can't afford that to talk about their perspectives and what they have going, right? Like, this is why I think like it's that ground up approach. That's what I mean by that. And that's something that I'm always dedicated to. To mark my words, it does not matter how big of a platform this ever turns into. For me personally, there will always be a time and a spot for that up and coming person who just needs help, because that's what the whole point of this is to me.
Well, those are the people who need the help the most. These newer, younger companies that, especially on the carrier side, one of the things we found out from our Kansas City summit, Mike Riccio actually talked about this, is how expensive it is for carriers, especially small carriers, to attend events like this. And so one of the things that we've done is we've slashed our price for carriers to attend. In fact, one of the promotions we're going to be rolling out is, hey, if you're a broker and you have core carriers that treat you well and that have served you well, sponsor them to come. Sponsor them to come, have dinner with your driver, sit down across the table from the owners of the carriers that have treated you well on your dime or your company's dime. So we're trying to make it as affordable as possible for these smaller companies to participate, because those are the ones who are going to get the biggest bang for their buck and the most value out of it.
No, I'm right there with you, man. I think that that's a great first step. And, and then getting out there and inviting people. I think if you're going to that summit in October, invite people out there who are from, Texas, especially, right? Like there's a boatload of trucking companies in Texas. And, I think from my perspective, Dan, it's just like, it's got to start with everybody, and people actually got to want to better the industry, right? Because I feel like, I don't believe in a rah drum circle, everybody kumbaya, love each other style thing. But I also feel like if we can put more information out there that people can, because again, you brought up the fact, like what you brought up there, Dan, is, ironically, the number one driver for why I wanted to build a podcast to begin with is I thought of my old man who was an owner op for 40 years. It's not that he didn't want to do different things in his business and everything else, but he couldn't afford to shut his business down for a week to go to a conference. If he was going to shut his business down for a week, it was going to be to hang out with his family and stuff like that. And that's why it's like, for me, for this podcast, it's just getting out there where people can just hit play and let it roll and then learn more from this. So no, dude, I think that's one of the things is it's like, getting people out there to get it more affordable for carriers. And then, what else are you guys going to do to kind of drive that? Like, what are some of the biggest needs for some of the carriers out there from a business structure standpoint that they would like to see at a broker carrier summit?
Yeah. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we got in terms of our content was, and I didn't realize this, but we had a number of speakers. We had Desmond Clark, Mike Riccio, we had Corey Shear, and a couple others, Adam Lombard, talking about things that were not necessarily trucking related, but they were professional development related. One of the things that we came to understand was that not a lot of people spend a lot of time pouring into trucking professionals in a professional development kind of way. They always want to talk about, hey, this is our compliance talk. This is our safety talk. This is our drug demand reduction talk. This is our rates talk, which those are all fantastic.
Yeah.
But we want to spend some time also investing in you as a business owner. So one of the talk that I'm going to give at the Fort Worth Summit is going to be titled "Don't Waste the Wilderness." It's not trucking related per se, but we've been in a freight wilderness for the last couple of years in many respects, and it's just absolutely sucked. How do you envision that as a business owner? How do you take that struggle and that hardship, and how do you turn it around and learn the lessons you're supposed to learn from that difficulty and build your business and 10x your business in the next 2 to 3 years? So how do you envision that for yourself?
No, I mean, that's exactly it, man, is you need to invest in professional development and everything, to think about your business from, I personally think it's like from a different angle, right? It's how do we grow our company up, and not necessarily, yes, thinking about freight is imperative, but it's also like the business structure and how do you develop as a person and as a leader and everything else. Like, I mean, shit, dude, to be honest with you, I probably invested $25,000 over the last couple of years in professional development for myself because I don't know everything, and I'm always willing to invest in myself and reinvest in myself to become a better leader, a better business person, and a better person in general to improve and sustain through the good times and the bad times, right? Because like when times are tough in business, that's what I signed up for, right? Like when I said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to fucking plant my flag and I'm going to figure it out, I signed up for that. I didn't just sign up when things are easy because, and I unfortunately, I think that's what the overwhelming majority, I don't want to throw a number out there, but I would argue probably 99% of the people when they start a business, they're only signing up for the easy times. They're not signing up for when shit hits the fan and money's running out and you don't know how things are going to be built.
Yeah, or get paid. What's one of the things about entrepreneurship that nobody really talks about is that the leaders, you eat last. You're the last ones to get paid. You're the first ones to get blamed all the time. But that's something else too. We've had a number of people. One conversation comes up in particular with a carrier. They were a new carrier, had 2 trucks. They've been in business for a year and a half, and they're just kind of flailing around trying to figure out how to navigate the industry. They found a mentor at the summit, a carrier that's been in business, has over 200 trucks, been doing this for 15 years, and they've been talking back and forth for the last month and a half or so about, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? How should I envision this? This is a very, I want to say, inclusive. It's also a very conversationally driven environment where you can find people who want to help you, which that's something else in the industry that, if you sit on Facebook or Twitter or whatever and listen to all the negative, you don't think those people are out there. There are more people out there in freight willing to help someone out than not. And a lot of them are coming to events like this.
Could not agree more, man. How does anybody find out more? Dan will be on the show plenty more times, you guys, before the actual summit happens. But how does anybody reach out to you to learn out more about what you guys going on in Fort Worth here in October?
Yeah, so you can email us at contact@brokercarriersummit.com. It'll either be me or our events manager answering. Happy to have any conversation you'd like. Also, our website, www.brokercarriersummit.com. Registration is live. It went live about an hour and a half ago for Fort Worth. So if you'd like to sign up, early bird pricing is in effect until July 23rd.
I love it. Hit up Dan, you guys. Hit it up. You guys won't want to miss the Broker Carrier Summit going on out there. As always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. It's all right, Dan. Just